What started as a low-key Instagram live turned into one of the most emotional moments in recent sports memory. Caitlin Clark's boyfriend, usually private and composed, broke that silence with a confession that stunned millions. Through raw tears and unwavering love, he spoke about Caitlin's hidden battles, nights spent fighting pressure, criticism, and expectations no one sees. He didn't ask for sympathy.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
He shared truth, the kind of truth that made viewers pause. His voice cracked as he described watching her break down, only to rise again the next morning like nothing had happened. In that moment, the world didn't see a star athlete. They saw someone surviving the weight of impossible standards. The impact was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, the video dominated social platforms, trending not for spectacle but sincerity. Athletes, fans, and celebrities echoed a single sentiment. This was more than vulnerability. It was real love in public view. The honesty reshaped how millions see fame, showing that even the strongest heroes need shelter. And sometimes that shelter is a voice willing to speak up when the world is too loud. It started as just another Instagram live. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. A modest stream, barely promoted, probably intended for a few close friends and fans. But within minutes, it became something else. Something raw, real, and completely unexpected. Caitlin Clark's boyfriend went live and gave the sports world one of the most emotional moments it's seen in a long time. What was supposed to be a low-key stream quickly transformed into a heartfelt confession. And not about himself, about Caitlin. About what she's been carrying behind the scenes. About the weight of the pressure, the endless criticism, the emotional toll that never seems to make it into highlight reels or press interviews. He didn't plan it. You could tell. His voice cracked. His words stumbled. It wasn't rehearsed or PR polished. It was a guy speaking from the gut about someone he clearly loves. Someone who's been fighting silent battles while the world only sees the stats. He started by talking about how hard it's been to watch her go through everything. The fame, the media pressure, the internet noise, it's nonstop. The kind of pressure most people wouldn't survive a week under. And yet, Caitlin's been living in it every single day. He said he's seen her cry. Not once, not twice, many times. And not because she's weak, but because she's exhausted. Because no matter how good she plays, there's always another round of people ready to tear her down. Because the world holds her to a standard that seems just a little more brutal than everyone else's. That hit deep, because people forget. They see the name trending, the buzzer beaters, the highlight clips, the awards, and they assume she's fine. They assume strength means immunity. But what he shared shattered that illusion. He talked about sitting next to her on nights when the cameras were off, when she had nothing left to give, when she was drained from smiling through negativity, from brushing off toxic comments, from pretending she's unfazed when she's very much human. And in that moment, the live stopped being just a stream. It became a mirror, one that made people realize how easy it is to forget that behind the athlete, there's a person who gets tired, a person who sometimes breaks. It didn't take long for people to start flooding the comments. First a few dozen, then hundreds, then thousands. You could see it happening. The number climbing, screenshots circulating, reactions starting to pop up across other platforms. Because it wasn't just what he said. It was how honestly he said it. He defended Caitlin, not as a celebrity, but as someone he loves, someone he respects. He said, even the strongest people need someone. Even she does, and she's strong, but she's still human. That line hit like a punch. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't embellished. It was just the truth. And everyone watching felt it. He spoke about how proud he was of her, not just for what she does on the court, but for what she endures off it, the way she handles criticism, the way she never fights back with negativity, the way she keeps showing up, even when the pressure feels impossible to carry. He said, people don't know what it's like to give everything and still get doubted every day. And she still shows up every time. And that was the theme: resilience, perseverance, love, Not in the cheesy sense, but in the real sense, the hard version of love. The kind that shows up when things aren't glamorous, when someone's broken down and needs someone just to sit with them in silence. That's what he gave her. And what he gave the audience was something sports media almost never shows: vulnerability. Real, gut-level emotion from someone close to the center of the spotlight, pulling the curtain back and showing the emotional wreckage behind the fame. The moment went viral for a reason, because it felt real. And in a world full of edited clips, polished statements, and curated social media personas, realness cuts through like nothing else. Fans started resharing the video. Athletes commented. Influencers reacted. Even people who didn't follow women's basketball started paying attention. Not because of drama, not because of scandal, but because what he said was so deeply relatable. He turned Caitlin Clark into something more than a star athlete. He reminded everyone that she's a person, that she hurts, that she works herself into ground, that she cries and gets back up and never asks anyone to feel sorry for her, and that behind all of that is someone who loves her enough to speak up when she won't. The stream ended with a message that pulled it all together. Calm, simple, powerful. He said, "You don't always have to say you're okay for me to know you're not. I see you, I've got you, and I always will, no matter how bright the lights get." That final moment was like a full stop on a sentence the internet didn't know it needed. You could feel the shift. The comments changed. The tone of the conversation around Caitlin changed. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about the person behind the athlete, and the fact that even the strongest need someone steady beside them. It also sparked something bigger. Conversations about mental health in sports. About how online hate culture wears down even the most successful. About how we treat public figures like punching bags and expect them to stay composed for our entertainment. It reminded people that the smile you see in the post-game interview might be covering up exhaustion, heartbreak, or anxiety, and that no amount of accolades can protect someone from emotional burnout. Caitlin Clark didn't ask for her boyfriend to defend her publicly, but in doing so, he gave the world a reminder it clearly needed. He showed what real support looks like. Not performative, not loud, just honest and steady. And that kind of love, it sticks. Because in a sports world driven by stats and narratives, sometimes the most powerful story is the one that happens off camera. The one where someone quietly says, "She's not okay and I see her." It changed the conversation. It forced people to see the weight behind the highlights. And it turned one live video into a cultural moment of emotional honesty that nobody expected. But everyone felt. Let us know how it landed for you. Did his message shift your perspective on what athletes go through behind the scenes? Do you think more people in sports should speak openly about emotional struggles? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if his words struck a chord. And make sure you're subscribed. We'll keep following the stories that go deeper than the scoreboard. Because behind every win is a human story worth telling. The day after the live went viral, everything felt different. The media wasn't talking about Caitlin Clark's stat line. They weren't debating MVP rankings or game footage. Instead, they were quoting her boyfriend's words, every tremble in his voice, every raw truth he let out. The spotlight had shifted, and this time, it wasn't on her shooting percentage. It was on her humanity, and people felt it. Deeply. It's one thing to respect an athlete for what they can do. It's another to see the weight they carry to make it look effortless. What that live stream did, what his confession unlocked, was a kind of empathy the sports world rarely pauses to give. Especially not to women athletes. Especially not to someone like Caitlin, whose excellence has made her a target as much as it's made her a star. He didn't have to go live. He didn't owe anyone an explanation. But when he did, he cracked open a side of this story that had been quietly boiling under the surface. The pressure, the hate, the expectations. All the things you don't see when the cameras are rolling and the crowd is cheering. He said there were nights where she'd come home completely drained. Not just physically, but emotionally. Nights where she'd scroll through comments she shouldn't be reading. But did anyway. Nights where she wondered if she was doing enough. If being great was ever going to be enough. And that right there That's what shook people, because it reminded us that success doesn't shield you from pain. If anything, it sometimes magnifies it. He talked about watching her try to be perfect. For fans, for coaches, for teammates, for critics who dissect her every move. The ones who say she's overrated. The ones who minimize her accomplishments. The ones who don't care how much she gives, as long as she keeps giving it. And she does give, every single game, every single day. But what her boyfriend reminded us is that when she's not on the court, she's still fighting battles that don't show up on the scoreboard. And some of those are the hardest ones to win. He said she's not just playing basketball. She's carrying the weight of being a role model, a franchise player, a brand, and a lightning rod for opinions. And no matter how many three-pointers she drains, there's always someone ready to tear her down the moment she misses. That kind of pressure doesn't just go away when the buzzer sounds. His words hit differently because they weren't about Caitlin Clark, the superstar. They were about Caitlin Clark, the person, the girlfriend, the daughter, the woman trying to hold it all together while millions watch and judge. That's why this moment mattered. It wasn't polished. It wasn't choreographed. It was one of the most genuine acts of emotional advocacy we've seen in sports. And people listened. Athletes across the league started reposting the live. Some commented, thanking him for saying what so many partners, friends, and family members of high-profile athletes wish they could. Sports psychologists, reporters, and fans echoed the same message. This is a conversation we need to be having. Because this wasn't just about mental health. It was about care. About what it looks like to love someone through the noise, through the fame, through the invisible battles that come with being a public figure. There's something powerful about seeing vulnerability in someone who's always looked invincible. It forces you to recalibrate how you view them. And for Caitlin Clark's fans, that recalibration made their support even louder. People flooded her pages with encouragement, not just clapping for her performance, but thanking her for enduring everything that comes with being great. Messages poured in saying things like, "You don't owe anyone perfection," and "Thank you for being strong, even when you shouldn't have to be." That kind of shift, that doesn't happen often. But when it does, it redefines what success really looks like. It's not just the wins. It's surviving the spotlight and doing it with grace, even when it hurts. Her boyfriend's promise at the end, that he'd be her calm through the chaos, wasn't just a sweet line. It was a needed one, because that kind of reassurance, in a world that expects constant performance, is rare. He said, even on the days when you feel like you're failing, you're still doing more than anyone knows. And I see it. I see you. That sentence alone sent social media into an emotional spiral. Duets, stitches, and reaction videos flooded TikTok. YouTubers broke down the stream like it was a film. And through it all, one message kept repeating. Athletes need more than applause. They need support. Real, unconditional support. This live changed things. Not because it revealed something scandalous, but because it revealed something true. That behind the highlight reels are sleepless nights. That behind every game face is someone trying to hold it all together. That behind every sports headline is a very real person who sometimes just needs someone to say, "It's okay not to be okay." Caitlin never asked for this moment to happen. She didn't need the defense. But when it came, honest, emotional, and unfiltered, it did what all the PR statements and motivational quotes couldn't. It told the truth. It said, she's giving everything she has. And sometimes she has nothing left, but she keeps going. And that deserves more than applause. It deserves care. We don't often get to see that side of our sports heroes, because the culture doesn't make space for it. Vulnerability is still too often seen as weakness, especially for women in sports, especially for someone like Caitlin, who has become the face of toughness and excellence. But this live stream cracked that narrative wide open. It told fans and critics alike, behind the dominance is a human being. A person with emotions, a person with bad days, a person who sometimes just wants the noise to stop. And the response? Overwhelming. In the best way. This wasn't a viral moment that faded in 24 hours. It was a reset. A reminder that even the brightest lights can be heavy. That raw love, the kind that shows up without needing credit, is powerful. And that the sports world needs more of this energy. Honest, grounded, human. So where does it go from here? Hopefully, this isn't just a feel-good story we forget. Hopefully, this becomes a turning point. One where vulnerability isn't just tolerated, it's valued. One where athlete wellness is as important as their stats. One where the people around them feel empowered to speak up, to defend, to care out loud. Because that's what he did. He cared out loud. For everyone to see. For Caitlin to hear. For the world to feel. And we did. What's wild is that all it took was one honest moment, one unfiltered stream, to bring clarity to something fans have been sensing for a long time, but didn't have the words for. Caitlin Clark has been carrying a lot. We just didn't know how much until someone close to her said the quiet part out loud. The truth is, we've all seen the pressure mount around her. She's one of the most visible athletes in the country right now. Every game is broadcasted, every interview dissected, every tweet about her performance debated like it's a national referendum. And because she's that good, people start to forget she's still a person. She doesn't get grace. She gets expectations. And for someone like Caitlin, who operates in a sport that's still fighting for equal recognition, those expectations are even heavier. She's not just playing basketball. She's representing something bigger. Women's sports. Young girls dreaming of going pro. The entire WNBA's marketing push. Corporate brand deals. Fan loyalty. Media agendas. And the constant, exhausting standard that women athletes have to be perfect or they're overrated. So when her boyfriend went live and stripped all that noise away, what we were left with was just the human cost. And it landed hard. He talked about how deeply the criticism cuts, even when she doesn't show it. How hard it is to maintain confidence when you're constantly being doubted in comment sections and sports shows. And how much it hurts to see someone you love breaking their back to meet impossible standards just to have their effort picked apart by strangers online. He said something so simple but so devastating. People talk about her like she's not going to read it, but she does. She sees all of it. That hit like a gut punch. Because we do talk about athletes like they're machines. We dissect their mental toughness without ever asking what they've had to mentally survive just to get to that game in the first place. And in Caitlin's case, being the face of a sport doesn't come with built-in protection. It comes with more exposure to people who feel entitled to rip her apart. That's why this live stream wasn't just emotional. It was necessary. It peeled back the image, not to make her look weak, but to show the strength it takes to keep going when no one cuts you any slack. When even your wins get spun into criticisms. When every mistake becomes content for someone else's platform. The fact that her boyfriend had to be the one to say all this tells you everything. Caitlin wasn't going to say it herself. That's not her style. She's been raised in sports culture. She's been trained to smile through it, to absorb it, to keep it moving. But the pressure didn't disappear just because she chose not to speak. So someone finally did. And that decision, intimate, emotional, and completely unscripted, became the wake-up call the sports world needed. This wasn't just a moment of vulnerability. It was a public challenge. To the fans, to the media, to the culture that demands greatness from women athletes, and then tears them down for how they carry it. The flood of responses said it all. From WNBA teammates to retired legends, to coaches, fans, and mental health advocates. Everyone started acknowledging the quiet burnout athletes experience just trying to exist in the spotlight. It wasn't about painting Caitlin as fragile. It was about reminding everyone that resilience looks a lot like breaking down in private and still showing up in public. Her boyfriend didn't come with data or drama. He came with honesty. He said he'd seen her worst days and her best performances, and sometimes they were the same day. That even when she's hurting, she still laces up, still signs autographs, still answers questions like she's invincible. He said, "There's a lot of people who love her game, but there aren't enough who care about her heart. And that's where I come in." That line, that's the one that sent the internet into a meltdown. Because that's what people want, realness. Not just the hero moment, not just the sports highlight. The full truth, the mess, the exhaustion, the support, the love. And love was the heartbeat of that live. He didn't cry because he was overwhelmed. He cried because he was helpless. Because there's only so much you can do when the world is demanding so much from someone you care about. Because watching someone carry that kind of burden alone breaks you. He said he's seen her put on the brave face when she's exhausted. That she's learned to smile for cameras even when she's been crying minutes before. That the game doesn't stop, even when her emotions are screaming for a break. And when you realize she's been doing all that while still performing at an elite level, it puts her greatness in a whole new light. She's not just an athlete. She's surviving a system that rewards her excellence and then criticizes her for having any emotional response to it. And still, she plays. She leads. She endures. That's the kind of toughness people overlook. Because it's not glamorous. It's not marketable. But it's real. And it's what makes this live stream so unforgettable. Not because it gave us new information, but because it gave us perspective. It asked us to rethink how we consume greatness, how we demand access to athletes' lives without offering any compassion in return, how we expect perfection and then vilify emotion. What Caitlin's boyfriend did was restore humanity in a space that desperately needed it. He reminded everyone that behind the star athlete is a young woman fighting battles we don't see, and that loving her isn't just about cheering her success. It's about standing with her when no one else does. When she's being ripped to shreds online, when she's wondering if she's enough, when she's so tired of being the example that she just wants to be Caitlin, the woman, not the icon. And the response to that moment proves something important. People do care. They just need to be reminded. They need to be given permission to stop seeing athletes as content machines and start seeing them as full humans. That's what this live did. It created space for empathy, for conversation, for change. Now the question is, what comes next? Do we just move on? Or do we carry this moment with us and let it shape how we talk about, engage with, and support the people we idolize? Because vulnerability like that doesn't come around often. And when it does, it's not meant to be consumed. It's meant to change us. If you felt something watching that live or hearing about it, don't let that feeling pass. Channel it into how you talk about Caitlin, about women athletes, about anyone in the spotlight. Let us know what hit you hardest. Was it the tears? The honesty? That promise to always be her calm? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you believe in protecting the people behind the jerseys. And subscribe if you're here for the truth, the heart, and the real stories that remind us what matters most. Empathy, love, and showing up for each other when it counts. Because Caitlin Clark may be a basketball legend in the making, but this moment, this was about the girl behind the greatness. And the love strong enough to say, you don't have to carry this alone anymore.